It's like, you know, sometimes in life you want to be the best at maths, or you want to be the best at English or whatever, but you can't, it's not a gift that you have necessarily, you have to work hard to it. Okay, so as you know a little bit about me already, I'm from the UK. We moved to America in 2018 because Rory, my husband, is in the Royal Navy and had got posted here for a liaison job. We got married in 2003 and we have three children. Archie, who's now just turned 17, Clarice, who is 13, and Gilbert, who is 10. We've moved around a little bit, but this is our first post in abroad. And by moving abroad, it actually meant that Rory was able to live with us all the time. Prior to that, most of our married life, he had been away either at sea or away during the week and would come back just at weekends. And if he was on duty at weekends, we would go and see him wherever he was on duty at. So so again, college and school is quite different. We would call it, we do it called higher education. So I did what we call GCSEs and then A levels, which is the equivalent of your high school here. So you sit your GCSEs, which are about 9 subjects, and then you choose only 3 subjects that you decide that you want to pursue with. So really at the age of about 16, you kind of need to know what you want to do at college so that you can choose the right A levels to do. My sister is a nurse, and she thought that it would be quite fun if I became a physiotherapist, which you call a physical therapist. Because I always liked helping people. I'm very sociable, and I always knew that I wanted to get married and have children. So I thought it would be a good occupation to do part-time and work around the children. So I did A levels in biology, geography, and religious education. I just needed the biology. Well, I needed to get high grades to go into the physiotherapy. So that's what I'm. You don't like minor and then major. You just do a degree, a bachelor's of science degree in physiotherapy. So that was well, it should have been a 4-year course, but they cram it into like 3 years. So it's a lot of anatomy, physiology, and you do placements. So for the first year, I was all taught the theory, I suppose, and we did practical with each other. And then for the next 2 years, I would do 3 weeks at a placement, 3 weeks in college, 3 weeks at a placement, 3 weeks in college. And you went around all the different specialities. And then from there, you then got a job as like a junior physiotherapist. And then you made your way up. You progressed, you know, depending on the jobs and things like that. So my favorite part of my job when I was working as a physiotherapist was working with different people, working with different specialities in the hospital. So I was part of a multidisciplinary team. So you would work, if you were on the wards, so actually in like a hospital, say I was doing like a rotation with surgery, then you would be working with the nurses, the doctors, you would be working with the occupational therapists. And then, of course, you had your list of patients that you saw. So, and they were, you know, varied. I loved working with people who, you know, who were very sick and then you got them better. So on the, you know, in the hospital setting itself, like if they'd had surgery, then you help them then breathe and walk again. So around the hospital, that was really fun. And then I specialised in outpatients. So it was people who came in with like backs, necks, knees, anything. And it was great to be able to help rehabilitate people who had either, were suffering, and then being able, and it wasn't just the physical part of helping people, it was sort of the psychological part, really, of people who were probably came in quite sad that maybe they couldn't move properly, or that they were in a lot of pain. They couldn't do their day-to-day living. And it was just for people to be able to talk to you as well, and for you to reassure them that actually things can get better, or if they can get better through physiotherapy, you knew where to direct them to, or advise them on either sort of holistic types of pain relief or medication. And I specialised in, I became what they call an extended scope practitioner. So I worked very closely alongside a consultant who, it's different in the UK to here. Surgery in the UK is like a last form of treatment. You try and exhaust all the holistic ways first. So that was fun, being able to people who thought that they would have to have an operation and then ended up just being able to, get on with exercises, or acupuncture. I did as well. So all of those type of things, manual therapy. You asked me, sorry, I've got digressed, but my favorite part was just, I guess, the diversity of it all and all the different people that I came across, and I suppose seeing them improve. I think the hardest part, or the most frustrating part of my job, was for people who came to see me who weren't interested. They just wanted a quick fix. They weren't interested in doing the hard work to get themselves better. So they would come in with a back pain and they would just say, I want my back to be better. But in order for people to do well at things, then you have to do the back work, or, you have to do the exercises. It's like, sometimes in life, you want to be the best at maths, or you want to be the best at English, or whatever. But you can't, it's not a gift that you have necessarily. You have to work hard to it. So I guess my frustrating thing is with patients that came in and said, oh, my back's not getting better. But you kind of knew deep down that they probably weren't doing their exercises, or they weren't, they were still going out and lifting things, or they weren't resting enough, or they weren't, taking on the advice. So I guess that was probably the hardest part, is knowing that you know things and you tell people, but they don't necessarily listen. Oh, but by far, people who would come in like, crying because they were in so much pain, thinking that they would never get better. And then just through a few physiotherapy treatments, people saying how much, what a difference that the treatment had made. Or even if I couldn't, I don't like the word fix, but if I couldn't help them get better, then being able to like direct them to where they needed to go. And for the people, for the patients that really worked hard, and seeing them get significantly better, and just knowing that you've made an impact on somebody, it was definitely the most rewarding. So I guess the main challenge for me whilst pursuing it was, although I thought it was going to be a great job with having young children, the reality is that actually, with having a husband who was away a lot, then trying to get that balance between having a career and bringing up children without your significant other being around was probably more challenging. So when they were like very young, nursery hours are long, so you can drop them off before breakfast and then pick them up, after tea. But once they become school age, then school hours in the UK are like 9 till 3. So then it's harder to kind of get into work. And as I progressed and I was manager of the department that I worked in, it was a lot of, I suppose, a lot of things that I had to do to then juggle with being a parent and not having that second pair of hands to rely on always. So it was then a bit more tricky to get that. I missed out on like seeing the kids sometimes in like plays or assemblies that they had or award things because I was at work, and like with the summer holidays trying to get childcare, putting them into clubs that they might not have wanted to go to. So that was probably the most challenging. It might have been a bit easier if Rory had been around a bit more, but with him not being there as much, it was a bit more tricky. So do you mean like my sort of my personality attributes, or yeah? So I guess I was when I was growing up, I'm the youngest of four. I was painfully shy. So I would always hide behind my mum. I would never talk to anybody. I didn't like to go to anybody's other houses without, one of my siblings being there or without my mum. And that was all throughout primary school, really, at like elementary age. So not at all like Gilbert or Clarice. I was really shy and didn't like to talk to anyone. And then I started in what was called middle school, and I just became friends with, I guess, some more outgoing girls who kind of, I guess, brought me out of my shell. What I mean by my shell was made me a bit more confident, I suppose. But because I was brought up in a lovely Christian home, my mum and dad do everything for everybody else, that I think that you kind of realize the importance of charity work and doing things for everybody else rather than just yourself. But in a way, you kind of think, well, you're sort of doing it for yourself because you feel good by helping other people. So that's not, my incentive. But when they say that you just do things for other people, that's right. But it is nice to do things for other people. So I don't think it's a completely selfless act, if that makes sense, because you get enjoyment and satisfaction out of it. We've got a big family. So I guess as I grew older, I did a lot of, I joined more things at school. And actually at the end of middle school, we have things, you have like positions of responsibility. And I was chosen to be head girl. And that was a real, I guess, turning point, because I actually then started to have a bit more confidence in myself. I was always very tall and skinny, and all my friends were like shorter, and I always felt a bit more self-conscious, I suppose. And then because other people started to believe in what I could do, then I guess I had the confidence to then do it. So I think having the confidence, talking to people, knowing that not anything that you say is stupid, no answer, no question is too silly. They're all things that I suppose are good qualities to have, and not being afraid to try something new or to do something slightly different. There are many paths in life that you can follow, but they probably all lead to the same place. So you just kind of have to go for it, really. So now my career has slightly gone off the path, in the fact that coming to America, I couldn't pursue my physiotherapy really, because here you qualify as a physical therapist and the qualifications are a little bit different. We didn't know whether I would be able to work out here. So I didn't bring all my qualifications here. And it would have been a real process. And actually, because of you've got the long summer holidays here, and you don't have people who work full time don't have a lot of time off here in America, which is different from the UK. I knew that I wanted to be doing something out here. So initially I just volunteered, and then realized that actually when I got my EAD, substitute teaching was something that would actually be more favorable to having the children here, that we could still travel, and that actually I would still get a lot of job satisfaction from it. So I think now do it, but actually, having being a physiotherapist, although it's completely different from teaching, you're still working with people. You've still got to communicate. You're still having that job satisfaction of helping people progress. So although I'm not a qualified teacher, from having now the experience of like 2.5 years of teaching here, I feel like I could be put in any classroom and I would be fine to just be able to teach them, even though I'm not sure I would know. Like at the moment, I'm teaching Spanish at Little Flower School. I can't speak a word of Spanish, and yet we're all learning day by day. And it's amazing what you can find on the internet and getting these children to progress in what they're doing. And the other day, because I'm subbing, you're thrown in the morning. I was teaching STEM, then PE, then kindergarten, then pre-K, before then the Spanish. And, for some people that might seem a bit horrifying to be going from one to the other, but actually it's kind of, fine. You just have to throw yourself into it. And today, like, none of the technology worked. So I was kind of like, I had to kind of make it up as I went along. But it was fun. And, as long as the kids are happy and that they're still learning a bit, then it's fine. I think, from being brought up in a Christian family, it's all about helping others, really, putting your other people first than yourself. So I think, a career for me that could help other people get on in life, or just be there for people, or just try and make people's lives more fun as you do, like, or enjoyment, and getting to know people and encouraging people, that different ways that I can, you can't, obviously when you're working in a career, you can't necessarily preach to people about things, but I kind of think that I hope people can see that I'm living out a Christian life through my work, and that there is more to life, that positivity, I suppose. I try and bring positivity into, my work, and then people might be asking, why are you so positive with things? I don't know whether that's answered your question or not, whether you want me to expand on it anymore with that. Oh yes, most definitely. I mean, I think I was talking to the boys at tea time about not not necessarily just like women's rights, but I was saying, it's really hard, I think, for a couple, if you want to have children, to both pursue very high powered careers, because otherwise the children are going to suffer. And I have seen a lot of my friends separate because they are both trying to pursue careers, and yet they're trying to bring up children, and there's a lot of back and forth with who's going to have the childcare, who's not. So I think you kind of have to make a decision, if you want to get married and have children. And it's not always the way that the females look after the children. I'm not saying that it has to be that way, but out of a couple, somebody has to, the male or the female or whatever, have to make the decision that their career is perhaps going to take more of a back seat, unless you can choose a career that you can do part-time, or be able to take a career break in that. And I think just choose wisely in what you want to do, because not every female wants to get married and have children, and that path is absolutely great. But I think if you know from an early age, or at some point, that you do want to get married and have a family, choose a career that is going to fit in with that lifestyle. So if you meet somebody that is maybe in the military, be aware that you might have to like move around. So for me, if I was working, if we were still in the UK, I could move around easily now and get jobs as a physiotherapy in different places. However, I might not get a job as a manager. But to me, I think it's taken me a long time to realize that success doesn't come from being the top of your game or getting a high end salary. Success is being the best you can be in the career, whatever job that you're doing. So as long as you give 100% in what you're doing, then you are successful. If you are in a career that you don't enjoy, then that's going to affect your marriage and your family life as well. So it's choosing wisely. Like, I think anything in the medical field is fabulous. I think now, having worked in the teaching profession, it's, fabulous as well. I think depending on the type of personality that you've got, if you are a people person, then definitely go into something along those lines. But there are lots of other things, if you're not a people person, that you can do like behind the scenes. But don't go for necessarily a career that you then can't pursue if you want to get married and have kids and think, oh, I can't work as that high-end lawyer in Manhattan anymore. I need to adapt what I do and be open to adaptations as well. I never thought for one, if someone had said to me 4 years ago that I would be teaching Spanish in America, I would be like, are you having a laugh? I wouldn't think that that's what I would be doing. Yet it's being open to different things too. Yes, it's significantly different to living in to England. So although we speak the same language, culturally it's quite different, being in the US than the UK. So some of the words obviously are quite different, but the way that schooling is done, the way that sort of living is done, the way that you have, how you run your country, how you run your states, how you run, politics. Obviously, we've got a monarchy, so we've got our head of state, which is the Queen, and then we have like a prime minister who has the government and runs the government and different parties. Also, I think it's quite different in the way that we maybe socialize in the UK. So in the UK, when we were in the UK, we would tend to get more babysitters and go out maybe with other just adults. Whereas I like it here, you tend to go out more as families. And we have things like, we call them public houses, which are just like drinking bars. Whereas here, people tend to go more to like restaurants to sort of socialize. Yeah, so you have the responsibility of your staff as well. So um, you're making sure that they're all right, that they're their well-being, making sure that the department is running correctly and well. I did a big project which was about self-referral, so that people didn't have to see the GP before coming to see a physiotherapist. And that was a really successful project. However, because it was so successful, it meant that we didn't need so much staff. So it kind of backfired on me slightly because we became a very efficient department. So then when staff left, they didn't then get replaced, which meant that we kind of all worked a bit harder. But it was great. But then it was just like, oh, it would have even run even more efficiently if they'd let me have even more staff. So then you have to go to like manager meetings, and you've also got your own patients still. And then, meetings might have been like, later on in the day or earlier in the morning. And it was just getting the logistics of trying to find childcare so that I could then go to these meetings. And it's so hard getting a balance, really, trying to be a good mum but also being a really good employee.